Hello everyone. I want to introduce myself. My name is Val Baranieski and I'm a former residential school survivor. I went to several boarding schools throughout my lifetime when I was younger. The first one I went to was Muskowgan and the second one was LeBret. The first one was the hardest to go to. Hadn't yet turned 5 years old. I was in 6 years old. I was 5. And then I went to the boarding school in Muskowgan. I couldn't speak English. I can only talk my Soto language. I had to learn that language while I was in the boarding school. I had family members who I could talk to that could interpret for me because English was not my first language. And then as time went on, I learned English. And while being in there, we were always being punished for talking our own language. It wasn't our fault. That was our first biological language that we learned as children. Our second language is English. But we were forced to talk English. And if we did talk our language, we'd be punished or we'd be centered out, humiliated, and felt belittled when we were younger. I had such a hard time in there. I was so small, couldn't figure out why I was in there. I was taken away from my parents and put into this place where I didn't understand why we were here. A lot of us suffered. A lot of us little children cried at night. And if we got caught chewing gum, chewing candy, whatever you want to call it, we would be punished. And one of the things that happened was that I was caught chewing gum. And when I got caught chewing gum, I had to put it on my nose, at the tip of my nose, kneel down with my hands behind my back and my nose to the floor on that marble floor in the center of the playroom, as we called them back then, and kept there for a couple hours. And this was just their way of saying, hey, you want to chew gum? This is what happens to you. And the humiliation and embarrassment I felt over the years has caused such a tremendous anxiety in me that it was hard for me to understand, why can't I talk for myself? Why can't I speak up? Why is there such a fear for authority? Well, because it was instilled in me. And I was like that right until in my 20s. And then in my 30s, I realized, you know what? That authority's not there. That was ingrained in me. I am who I am today because I started digging myself out of that dark spot that was within my heart and the authority. That's not something I'm proud of. I could have done so many things in my life had I not had such a fear of being centered out, speaking up when I should have been speaking up and I didn't. And a lot of that really affected me mentally, emotionally. Today you can call that, all these emotions, post-traumatic stress disorder. Like, they have names for those things now. And it took years and years for me to get over that. And now I'm not in that place anymore because I finally forgave myself and that child that was within me that had to deal with all those atrocities and embarrassments throughout my life when I was a child. Nobody wants to stand in line so people can look at your underwear. Nobody wants to be centered out for having an accident when you're a little girl because you couldn't hold your bladder. Nobody wants to be told that they were, it happened. We couldn't help it. Our bladder is our bladder. But no, In the boarding school, if you done any of that, you were centered out and you were humiliated, and that's not a good thing for a child. There's, I often wondered why, like, why are you being so cruel? Like, there was no compassion at all when I was in boarding school. If you were sick, you were left up there and you wanted to, you felt better, you wanted to go back, they chose to control you, whatever means they had. And a lot of us today have had to deal with how do we parent? Where's our culture at? Like, what do I believe in? Like, our culture was the culture that we were growing up with as children, like grandparents telling us to respect people, even if they're different, no matter who they are. You have respect for them and you respect your elders. You don't talk back. Those were some of the things that I learned along the way and was taught by my grandparents. I wish now that I could talk to my grandparents and ask them questions. Everything that we've learned from them, it's gone. We don't have those elders that had taught each and every one of us our culture and what the protocols were. Today we don't have that. We're just grasping at straws. Like, for myself even, I'm grasping at straws. I talk broken Soto when I should be talking fluently. Instead, I'm fluently talking in English because I've lost that part of me. That's my culture. It's my grandchildren's culture. We all have lost that. We have to forgive ourselves. It takes a lot of time. Yeah, I can forgive myself. But can I forgive the atrocities we went through? That in itself is a journey on its own. Like, our sense of belonging is not there anymore. Like, we go into these gatherings, whether it's a funeral or a gathering of something that we want to celebrate together, it's not there anymore. The matriarchs are gone. They were the ones that kept our families together. They were the ones that we came to when we had a death in the family. They were the ones that guided us. And now that generation's gone. And then the next generation, yeah, we still get together, but I don't see people together the way they did at one point. I remember being a child and going to funerals and having respect and being, behaving in a certain protocol. And now we just don't have that support. I've been to a few where, maybe 2, 3, 4 people are up all night. At one time, as a group and a family, we all came together and stayed together. It was like that in my grandpa's generation. And, the next generation, it kind of filtered out. It was still there. But in my generation, you see that there is no support. Unless you have that gathering and those matriarchs in place, we've lost it. We've lost all that. We've lost what we have to do. The things we have to do to prepare for, to take our family member home. All the gathering and all the stuff that you need in a traditional manner. We've lost that. Why? Because it took so much atrocities, and we were forced where we shouldn't have been forced. I'm second generation. My mom's first generation. Can you imagine the atrocities that happened in her time? In my time, at least we were given some options, but she was not given those options. She told me a story. If she didn't go to boarding school, or my aunt didn't go, they were going to throw my grandpa in jail. Like, he was a trapper. That's where they lived most of their life, was on the trap line. Can you imagine my grandmother having to talk to one of my aunts to tell her, like, you have to go, otherwise they're throwing your dad in jail? Like, so my aunt had to go. Like, it was a forced thing, or my grandpa would be in jail. And that was his livelihood, was living off the land and trapping. And that's where my grandmother was with him, with the younger kids. And at least they had some safety there for a while until they came around and they gathered up my aunts and uncles and sent them to a boarding school. And from there, they had such tragic lives. Like, what happened to them, like, they don't talk about it. Our generation may talk about it and say, yeah, no, this isn't gonna happen. We lost a lot of things in life, including parenting. And it's just so hard to talk about and put it in a context where, I can go A, B, C, D, but no, it's something that we have to deal with as individuals, and we have to support each other. There's times there is no support, but we have to do that. That's what the older generations did. They supported their younger generations. We were able to, have respect for our elders and our aunts and uncles. Nowadays, you see it all around you. Like, it just saddens and breaks my heart that a lot of this stuff is gone, and we're trying to bring it back. We're trying to bring our culture, our language back, when we should have learned from our elders. They were our culture. They were our teachers. They were the ones that taught us respect, wisdom, forgiveness, and never judge. Even now, when I think about it, it brings emotion to me, because you always think, if only I wish I had asked, if I could talk to them one more time, and I can't. None of us can. And I just thought I would share this with people, because it's something that's really, really hurts a lot of us. And the fact that we've lost so many young people in this generation and the generations before us that didn't make it home, and their families are gone. Like, so they never ever knew what happened to them. It's a tragedy. And for people to say, for the world to see this, they have to understand that we are still here. We're not going anywhere. We are First Nation people.